Hi, it's Rachel Maldonado, and I am with Chris Sky, and we are talking about the masculinity crisis. Chris, do you think there's a crisis?
That's an understatement. They are literally trying to eliminate masculinity in men and trying to embrace it in females. They want a complete role reversal in society. And there's a reason for that. I don't care who's not going to like this if I say it, but a group of women is a lot easier to control than a group of men. You've never seen an army of women fight a revolution against a warring government. It's always men. Men are physically stronger. Men have something called testosterone. Men have they're bigger, they're more aggressive, and they're generally ready to fight. But now in today's society, we have it completely switched. You know how many pictures I've seen of couples where the guy's legs are skinnier than the girl's legs, and the guy's walking hand in hand with the girl, but she's closer to the traffic. And if somebody tries to snatch her purse, she's going to be the one to punch the guy out while the guy stands there like this. And then guys have been told that being harmless is a virtue. If you're harmless, you're no good to nobody. That just means you're useless. The whole point about being masculine and being a man is being dangerous when you need to be, but being able to control it. Talk to a UFC fighter or a very high level martial artist that's been doing it for 30 years. They're extremely dangerous. They know a million ways to kill somebody, but you won't feel unsafe with them because they know how to control it. In fact, you will feel safe with them because you know they are able to protect you and you know they will protect you. That's what masculinity is all about. It's not about, oh, I'm bigger and stronger than my woman, so I'm going to beat her up. Or like Andrew Tate, I'm going to make her do webcams for me. No, that's not masculinity. Masculinity is having women respect you and realize that they're better off with you mentally, physically, and spiritually. Nowadays, that's called old fashioned. Oh, I held the door open for a girl and she didn't thank me. I'm never doing that again. You know how many guys I've heard say something stupid like that? That's like saying, okay, so you had a girlfriend and she cheated on you, so you're never going to trust women again? No, you just met a bad woman. And we got to remove the term toxic masculinity from society. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. Boys are supposed to go out and fight each other, wrestle in the dirt, do things like that. If you're not letting them do that, they're not going to be boys. And this idea of participation trophies and rewarding losers, that's not right. Like it's not okay to be only about winning and win at all costs. But if I have a fair match against you and I beat you, why are we both getting a trophy? Oh, so you don't feel bad? It's all about feelings right now for men. And that's why they want men to be more like women, because women are emotional. When you were fighting in world wars, and I'm going to use Joseph Stalin as an example, he's not a very nice guy, but they kidnapped one of his sons. If that was a mom, they would do anything to get their sons back. I believe you would agree with that. When they called Joseph Stalin and said, "What are you going to give us for your son?" He said, "I'll give you a soldier of equal rank and status and nothing more." A mom would simply not be able to do that. So a mom is not really the one that you want leading an army, leading a revolution, or even leading a country, in my opinion, because one time out of the month, she's going to be on her period. And then what? And look at Hillary Clinton, for example. She is obsessed with controlling people. When you get a lot of women in positions of power these days, they get off on controlling men. And now there's this whole disconnect between roles in relationships. Moms should be moms, guys should be guys. The reason they can't even do that these days is because of the economic factors. There's no more American dream anymore where the father can go to work, buy a house, pay for the house, buy a couple cars, and the mom can stay home and raise the kids. In today's society, you're both working just to make ends meet, and it's only going to get worse. And they tried to pride the idea of single motherhood. But if it's a single father, they make it seem like it's a bad thing. When you have a single mom and there's no influence in that child's life, no fatherly influence in that child's life, not only does he not learn how to treat women, he doesn't know how to be a man. A mom cannot teach a young man how to be a man. I don't care how good of a mother you are. I don't care how good at your intentions you are. I don't care how smart you are. They need a positive male influence in their life. And people call positive masculinity old fashioned, holding doors open for women, carrying them over a puddle, making sure they always feel safe and protected. All that kind of stuff is like gone. Now you have guys that want to split the bill on a first date. Why are you even dating a woman if you're going to act like that? Because now dating isn't about finding a mate. It used to be about, if I took you on a date for dinner, it's because I saw potential in a relationship with you. I saw you as a potential mother of my children, and I'm courting you. And I'm trying to show you that I'm willing to provide for you. I'm willing to protect you. I'm willing to go that extra mile to show you that you're special, and I am going to give you a better life than the next guy. But nowadays, people are going out on dates just so they can try and hook up and try to have as many different sex partners as they can. And you have men that can't even pay their rent trying to go out on dates with the girl. So then they tell them, oh, let's go to Starbucks for a date and have a coffee. And then it's a $12 bill and they want to split it. How are you ever going to respect a man like that? You're not. And then these beta males, and I'm using that term very broadly because that applies to most men in society that think like this, they wonder why they can't get women. They wonder why they become incels in their friggin' in their bedroom at home. And you don't got to be like Andrew Tate and have hundreds of millions of dollars and be a former fighting champion and talk like girls don't matter and have 50 girls at a time. No, you can just be a good guy, treat women the way they want to be treated, and you'll get the same love and respect in return. And then you'll get a lot more women like that. Trust me. I've done pretty well with women in my life. I'm not gonna lie, and it's because I treat them better than the other guy will. Then there's the double standards. How many times have you heard them say to a girl, "If your man won't do that for you, find one that will"? And it sounds perfectly okay. You hear girls say it all the time, but the moment a guy will say that to another guy, "If your girl won't do that for you, find one who will," now you're a misogynist. That's toxic masculinity. The double standards in society today are designed to demasculate males. They want to weaken males mentally, physically, spiritually, so they're much easier to control. It goes back to the whole thing about making men harmless. If a man is harmless, he's obedient, he's compliant, he will do exactly what he's told, not only by his wife or his girlfriend, by his kids, by the government, etc. How do you think Canada, which has, in my opinion, they call them tolerant males, the most tolerant males in the history of the world, in my opinion. And that's why when they had the pandemic in Canada, it was probably worse in Canada than virtually any other country in the world, because I was the one that wasn't complying. I was famous for that, not wearing masks and telling people to just say no, etc. You know how many phone calls I would get from mothers and women who are in relationships where they would try to tell their man, take the mask off when they walk into a store, and the man would be like, oh, no, we got to wear it. We can't have confrontation. If you're a man and you're afraid of confrontation, you're not a man. Men are meant to be in confrontation. And that goes back to the participation trophies, because now you can avoid confrontation. You can be on the sidelines the whole game, not play 1 second, lose the game, but you're still going to get a trophy that looks just as good as the other guys. They are designing society to make men weak and compliant and literally take them out of the equation. And now we have, what do we have? We have boys growing up that don't know if they're a man, a woman, something in between, which doesn't even really exist, or a friggin' cat. You literally have schools putting litter boxes into the friggin' bathrooms because students identify as cats. We have people that identify as transracial. And in places like Canada, they're making laws that if you offend these people, which are considered mentally ill in many other countries, now you can go to jail for life for a hate crime. Because I won't call a 6'2" guy who's bigger than me, has more facial hair than me, I won't call him a she or a Z or any one of the other made up pronouns. Let me get one thing straight. Sex and gender are the same thing. There's male and there's female. There's no spectrum. There's nothing in between. Every single day they make up a new gender. You know how many genders there are apparently now? Something like 75. And do you know how ridiculous they are? I actually read through them and I started reading them out loud in an LGBT place just to see how people's reactions were, because these are the people that supposedly support them. One of the genders, and I can't remember the names of any of them because the names are just as ridiculous as the descriptions, but one of the genders is your gender changes based on who you're around. So if I'm around you, I'm a dude, but if I'm around somebody else, I might be a woman. The most ridiculous thing. Another one, your gender changes based on the moon. The cycle of the moon changes your gender. Another one is, this was my favorite. You're a man, but you're possessed by a female spirit. They actually have that in a clinical psychology book as a supposed gender. So when you throw logic, reason, common sense, reality out the window, you can make people believe anything, and now you can make them do anything. And the more ridiculous, the more out of touch with reality you can get them to believe, the easier it is to continue manipulating them. It's that simple. And that is exactly what they're doing. They want a culture where the men are so tolerant that you can literally walk up, physically assault their woman right in front of them, and that man won't even look the guy in the eye half the time. And it will be the woman that has to stand up for herself. The woman will have to say something. The woman will have to hit that guy. Well, her man stands idly by and does nothing. Nothing. And how are you expect, which woman is going to want to mate with that man and have children with that man? Would you want to have children with a man that wouldn't stand up for you if another man tried to attack you or another woman tried to attack you? Obviously not. But that's what they try to pride in society. And with COVID, they went really far. With COVID, they changed all of the virtues. Now, opposition to authority made you a terrorist, and complying was a virtue. Being a loser and being told what to do became virtuous in today's society. They literally flipped the script. And then they have diagnoses for children that won't fit in, like ADD, which we already know is a made up disease for kids that just don't want to sit in one place and listen to somebody babble for 2 hours. If I was in school today, I would be considered mentally ill with oppositional defiance disorder, ODD. You heard of that one? That would be me, 100%. I'd be mentally ill. I'd be prescribed drugs. I'd be told that I need to calm down, sit down, and do what I'm told. Fuck you. That's how I am, and that's how every man should be. You should stand up for yourself, stand up for what you believe in, and stand behind your convictions 100%, no matter what people say, no matter what people think. If you're a man, you should be in the gym. If you're a man, you should learn a martial art. You should learn to look after yourself mentally, physically, spiritually. So now you're in a position to look after your woman and look after a family. We have an entire generation of completely lost men to the point, like I said, they don't know if they're a man, a woman, something in between, or a cat. And they believe they can alter their race, alter their gender, alter their age. Trans-ageist is a thing. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we need to rein it in because it's getting out of hand. And people that live in Canada are so, in fact, so saturated by it. It is worse in Canada than anywhere else in the world. You know what I saw the other day in Canada that our tax dollars are paying for? An LGBT police car with a rainbow on it, and it says LGBT cop. And as you drive up to the cop, you see this massive 6'3" black guy in the passenger seat, cop, with all makeup on and a big blonde wig. And we're supposed to be taking these people seriously. We're supposed to be giving these people a badge and a gun and telling them to go enforce laws. You don't think those people are going to be biased? You don't think those people are going to be a little bit mentally unstable? If you're a man and you want to wear wigs and makeup, there is something wrong with you, because the man should simply not be doing that. If you're a man and your sexual preference is to be gay, okay, not much I can do about that. But if you're a man and you truly believe you're a woman, then you have a mental condition, because no matter what you think, you're never going to be a woman. You were not born in the wrong body. When you die and they look at your body, they're going to say that was a man, not that was one of the 75 made-up genders, or not a woman. No, you are a man, biologically, physically, mentally, spiritually. It is in your DNA. So act like one. The only problem is they made it so hard for men to be men that it's almost scary to come out as a masculine man, because you're going to be called toxic. You're going to be called aggressive. You're going to be called dangerous. It's ridiculous. And it's a giant mind fuck for men all over the world. But if you go to a place like Mexico, a supposed third world country that's 100 times better than Canada, they still have values. They still have gender roles. They still appreciate family. That's the kind of society I want my children to grow up in. I will never have children in Canada. I would never raise children in Canada. And I want to get out of Canada as fast as possible because, number one, the economic conditions are absolutely abhorrent, and they're only going to get far worse. In fact, the OECD index, which is one of the most accurate factors for economics, has Canada listed as one of the 38 most advanced countries. Well, they predict that Canada's economy is going to place dead last of those 38 countries for the next 40 years straight. And you have Canadians just sitting around watching everything get worse and worse and worse, and just lying to themselves every day. If you are an insecure male, you will lie to yourself about everything.
Mm.
You will lie to yourself about how you look, how you feel. You will lie to yourself about how you're perceived by others. You will lie to yourself about your conditions of your relationship. And of course, you're going to lie to yourself about your government and the economic situation and your future. You know how many people I say, oh, I would leave Canada, but it's just like this everywhere. Are you out of your mind? I've been to over 50 countries in the world, and there's not any countries in the world that are like Canada. We literally have the weakest, most tolerant males in the world, and they value that here. In Canada, tolerance is pushed as a number one priority, as a number one personality trait to have. Meanwhile, what does tolerance actually mean? What is the definition of tolerance? Putting up with something you know is wrong. How does that make you virtuous? How does that make you a good man? That's literally watching the old lady get purse snatched on the street and be like, I don't want to get involved. That doesn't make you a good person, but they want you to be that person. They want you to be that guy that will literally sit there while somebody comes and beats your kids and rapes your wife right in front of you, and you don't lift a finger to help. That is what they're trying to do to Canada. And any man that shows any type of masculinity, they will try to strike down, or they use false masculine idols like Andrew Tate to make people believe that this is what real masculinity is supposed to be like. No, he's just somebody that has enough money and enough fame that he can mistreat women because they're using him for all the wrong reasons. They're not with him because they actually like him or he makes them feel good. They're with him because he's buying them shit. He's driving them around in nice cars, letting them go to nice houses, or they're so insecure and broke, he's making them go and do sex work on on cams so they can make money. And he thinks that makes him masculine? No, not at all. The fact that he called out the government during COVID after I started doing it, I'll give him that. But the way he treats women is not a way for men to treat women or think that they should be treating women. In fact, in the UK, they actually tried to pass anti-masculinity laws using Andrew Tate as an example. And they want to put these into the curriculum in school, and they want to literally make toxic masculinity illegal. So men are already so afraid of women, they can't even approach them to ask them on a date because they're worried the woman will call them a stalker or call them out for sexual assault. So imagine they made masculine traits literally illegal. Men will just walk around like this. When they see a pretty woman, they'll literally look down at the floor. And they want that because, like I said, it's easier to control a group of women or men who act like women than it is to control a group of men who act like men. Go get a football team together, and then go get the same amount of guys that are either into transgenderism or these type of beta males that we're talking about, and then give them a set of orders to do that they know is not in their best interest. Are they gonna? Is the football team of masculine men gonna do it, or they're gonna tell you to go F yourself? That they're gonna tell you to F off because they're masculine, they're secure in their person, they're secure in their physicality, and they're secure in their mental state. You ask one of these trannies, they're gonna be like, oh my God. And then they want to be around kids on top of that. And they want you to believe that a child that's 4 years old can choose their gender. And in Canada, they want to take away parental rights to the point that if your child comes home from school, and guess what? A 4-year-old child does not know the difference between a man and woman or sexuality unless somebody is teaching it to them. So what do? They go to the school, which I like to call indoctrination centers, and they have what they call a new curriculum, SOGI 123, sexual orientation and gender identity. And they slip it in. They don't call it sex ed. They call it language arts. So when they're teaching your children all the different pronouns and teaching children all the different genders that they made up, that's language arts. When they're teaching your 5 and 6-year-old child about masturbation, that's just about being secure in their body. And then when they read your child a story, because children love make-believe, children love dress up, children love magic, and the story is called Jack Wants to Be Jill. And it shows a little boy about their age, masculine, doing masculine things. And then one day he decides he wants to be Jill, and he puts on a dress and he puts on makeup and he comes to school. And everybody in school affirms this. The teachers are like, wow, Jill, you look fantastic. Hey, class, doesn't Jill look amazing? Isn't she awesome? And they'll refer to her as a girl. They'll refer to her by the female name that they chose for it. And they're reading this to an entire classroom of children that have no concept of gender, no concept of sex. But now, if your child goes home, your child Anthony goes home, and he's like, Mom, they read us this book. Jack wants to be Jill. So tomorrow I think I want to go to school and I want my name to be Andrea and I want to dress up in some of your clothes. Is that okay? And if the mom says no, now all of a sudden they're going to get reported to child services and they can literally take the kids away from you because you're not affirming their chosen gender identity that was literally implanted into them by someone else. We have parents that want to get famous, like the kid Jazz. Have you heard of the kid Jazz? Oh, it's a little kid that's a boy that they turned into a girl when he was 3 years old. And they pretend like it was his decision. And the parents pretend like they had nothing to do with it. And this is just the natural course of life. No, 100 years ago, this didn't even exist. And it was always a mental illness. If you go to the DSM, the main psychological manual for every mental illness in the world, homosexuality used to be listed as a mental illness. Now it's a sexual orientation. Transgenderism used to be listed as a mental illness. Now in Canada and the US, it's a sexual orientation. And guess what they tried with next? Pedophilia. In fact, in the 2013 version of the DSM, they relabeled pedophilia from a mental illness to a sexual orientation, which would have legalized it and familiarized it just like homosexuality and transgenderism. Thankfully, at the time, there was so much backlash against it that they had to publicly declare that it was a mistake in the manual and an accident. And you can go look this up, anybody that doesn't believe me, because it sounds ridiculous, I know, but it's 100% true. And now 10, 11 years later, we're at the point where California passed laws to make pedophile sex legal. So you can have sex with a child and they can still consent and you're okay, as long as the child consented. Meanwhile, you have states like Florida that pass the right kind of laws. If you're a pedophile and you sexually molest or rape a child, you can get the death penalty. And I much more believe in that statute than telling a 12-year-old child they could consent to sex with a 35-year-old politician because he said so. The way the world is going is some countries and some states are going far to the left, off into psychosis, and the other ones, thank God, are going far into the right. But if you go too far to the right, you become Andrew Tate. If you go too far to the left, you don't know if you're a man, a woman, or something in between. So you got to find that balance. And the balance is wanting to protect your woman, wanting to provide for your woman, being honest and faithful to your woman, and employing gender roles within the family. If everybody knows their role, everybody knows what to do, everybody can play their part the way they are meant to be played, now you will have harmony in the relationship. Now you can have kids that will know who they are, be confident, be the types of kids that become leaders, be the types of kids that become someone that can change the world. When these kids that don't know if they're a boy, a girl, or a cat, do you think they grow up into strong people? Or do you think they grow up into people that are never going to have any type of effect on the world unless they cry over and over about something to get their way? That's the kind of society that they're building up. They want it as weak as possible, and it's just so they can control it. The people in government, the word government, you know what that even means in Latin? Govern is control, and mente is mind. It literally means mind control. And you're wondering why they're doing all these policies in school, all these laws, and they preach transgenderism and pride. It's literally called pride, for Christ's sake. What is pride? Not only is it one of the 7 deadly sins, it is the origin of all sin. So they make you embrace pride. They literally make you embrace the origin of all sin to lead you down the path of more and more sin. And it doesn't stop. It only gets worse. How can I prove it? Remember when pride was just a parade? And then it became an entire day, and then it became an entire week, and then in Canada it became an entire month. Well, guess what? Now Canada, Pride is an entire season. It runs the entire summer, all the way from June to the end of September. They call it Pride season. And we're supposed to be tolerant now. They've changed the laws against public indecency. If it's part of Pride season, and I want to walk around with my cock out, literally naked in the street, and your 7 and 8 year old child are walking by, it's their fault. It has nothing to do with me. I'm free to do what I want because I'm gay. They literally have two sets of rules. If a gay guy punch, if I punch a gay guy in the face, I'm gonna get an assault crime, which is not very bad. But then I'm gonna get a hate crime charge. They're gonna say I did it because he was gay, and I'm gonna go to jail for 15 years. Meanwhile, if that gay guy punches me in the face, he's gonna say it was because I was exhibiting toxic masculinity, and I'm still gonna be the one to get in trouble. Once again, it's all about control. When you have cops coming up to me on the street, standing beside naked men that are in front of children, and you say, why are you allowing this to go on? And the cop's response is, well, it's legal now. That just goes to show how much they have programmed the men of society that even the ones that are supposed to have a badge and a gun and protect us will literally tell you to your face that they are not going to protect your children from an obviously sick gay man who's standing there naked and exposing himself. And if anybody's offended by that, too friggin' bad. If you're one of those people that wants to walk around naked around children, I want to ship you off to Florida and let them deal with you how they deal with pedophiles. I'll be completely honest. In Canada, they're going to give you a ribbon, a rainbow ribbon for walking around naked and say how prideful you are and how strong you are and how brave and stunning you are. It's all bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit. Men should be men. Women should be women. If you're a guy that likes to fuck guys, go ahead, but be a friggin' man. I'm sorry, it's ridiculous.
Mm. There is no masculinity without morality. And you are saying that degeneration, this is by design. They're making the men weak and immoral.
Yes, 100%. By embracing pride. When you embrace pride, you embrace sloth, you embrace gluttony, you embrace lust, you embrace it all. It all starts with pride. So telling someone that they should be proud of their degeneracy, proud of their immoral behavior, obviously that's opening them up to more degeneracy and more immoral behavior and rewarding them for it. Meanwhile, the guy who wants to act like a man, the guy who wants to hold the door open for a woman, I hold doors open for women, and most of the time they're like, thank you very much. Every once in a while, you get a woman, I don't need you to hold the door for me. Okay, bitch. I still did it because I'm a nice guy. And I'm not going to not hold it for the next woman just because you're a bitch that doesn't appreciate it. And I'm not afraid to call a woman like that a bitch, like 99% of men. 99% of men won't even call a woman a bad name now. Oh my God, how could you say that to a woman? Because she's a fucking bitch. If you're a bitch, I'm going to call you a bitch. If you're a nice woman, I'm going to call you a nice woman. I'm not going to be afraid to call you what you are because I'm going to be called a bad name myself. That's how far it's come. Men are literally afraid to be called bad names and have their entire personality and their entire livelihoods conditioned and controlled based on the fact that somebody might think or say something negative about them. Do you understand how ridiculous that is? That means you've never grown up. Children think like that. Little children think like that, not grown adults. The whole point about being an adult is being secure in your person and comfortable with yourself and not giving a shit about what other people think or say. And what would we see with COVID? How many people put on the mask just because their family members wanted them to, or because they didn't want their friends to think badly of them? And you have guys 6'3" going to the gym every day, jacked, big long beards, tatted up to wazoo, and they're afraid to walk into Walmart without a mask on because the 65-year-old 4'11" Thai woman who's the Walmart greeter might say something to them. Do you understand how ridiculous that is? Like if we played a video of the average day a man goes through in society today to the generation 100 years ago, they would be laughing their friggin' ass off like you've never seen. That movie Idiocracy, it was literally a prediction of the future. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the dumbing down of society and the weakening of society. And they're dumbing people down through political correctness. Now, you're supposed to forget what's actually correct and forget what's right and go with political correctness because you don't want to offend somebody. There's literally a video of a dude going into a college. He's a white guy and he's 5'7" or so. And he goes and he introduces to people and tells them that he's a 6'1" black woman. And you know what the average response is? Oh my God, good for you. I'm so proud of you. They use even the word pride. Not one university age student had the balls to tell this guy, no, dude, you're a 5'7" white guy, not a 6'1" black woman. I'm sorry to tell you. Not one. And he was doing it just to prove how weak and stupid people have become and how easy they are to control. Now you can control people with thoughts, not even with words or threats, with thoughts. Literally, that's the level of control they have over society today. And if that doesn't scare you, if that doesn't alarm you, if that doesn't make you think that there's something wrong, well, then congratulations, you belong in Canada and you should stay here. People like me do not belong here anymore. It's that simple. It's not
Yes.
a culture for me. It's not a culture at all.
Yeah. Do you think that dumb and degeneracy go together? They have to dumb down in order to get you to accept this degeneracy, grooming, pedophilia.
I think that it definitely helps, but not every single person that embraces it is dumb. A lot of them are sinister. All
Mm,
the people that are doing these agendas, they're not stupid. They're doing it for a specific purpose. A, so you can be weaker and they can control you, and B, because our nation is run by pedophiles. Justin Trudeau, our prime minister, is a pedophile, known to the entire world to have paid a $2.5 million hush fund settlement to the 15-year-old girl he had sex with before he was prime minister when he was a part-time drama teacher at her school. So we literally elected a pedophile to run our country, and we're so tolerant that he's been running it for 8 years, directly into the friggin' ground. And we wonder why they keep introducing new laws that enable pedos towards children. Not only do they have drag queen story hour, it's bad enough. It's not like these drag queens are going in there dressed normally. They go in there dressed like strippers, and then they read children's stories about transgenderism and about embracing the degeneracy. And in some schools, I called out the mayor of Toronto for this, the interim mayor that was, well, I can't even remember her name now. She's so irrelevant, but she took over when the old guy there, Tory, got canned for having sex with the hot young chick. And they made that seem like it was so bad. So it's bad that he had sex with a hot young woman, but it's okay for drag queens to come to a children's school and not only read them stories this time, they had the drag queen actually performing at the school. And by performing, we mean an erotic dance show with scantily clad outfit, wearing female underwear, where his testicles are literally hanging out the side. And we're supposed to be applauding that. And we're supposed to be bringing our children to that. And we're supposed to be telling our children that this is good and we should be embracing it. And if you're against it, you're toxic, you're bad, etc. No, we just have a friggin' brain and we have a set of morals. And we understand that you need to protect children from degeneracy like this. The dumbing down definitely helps it for them. The weakening of masculinity definitely helps it for them. But make no mistake, degeneracy does not go hand in hand with stupidity. There's a lot of very evil, intelligent, and sinister people that embrace degeneracy. It's the programming they use on the rest of us that dumbs us down and makes us easier targets.
mm. And so you think the attack on the family, two parents, mom and dad, glorifying casual sex, leave your children, don't take care of your family, you think this is a direct attack on the family?
100%. How do you destroy a nation? You destroy the family. How do you destroy the family? You embrace feminism, make women care about their career more than their children, and you destroy masculinity by calling it toxic. And you reverse the roles of mother and father in the household. And now all of a sudden your kids don't know what they are. And look, if I'm wrong, we never had one so-called gender transition clinic 50 years ago. Not one. Now there's thousands, thousands. And you know why Big Pharma loves transgenders and LGBT people? Because in a recent study, it was shown that an LGBT person, not only are they more compliant, look at the vaccines for the LGBT. When monkeypox came out and they said, oh, it's probably going to affect you if you're homosexual, almost 95% of the people that went to take the vaccine were all LGBT. They believe everything the government tells them. Why? Because the government tells them since age 4, you're special. You're a special protected minority. We're going to give you special privileges. We're going to treat you different than everybody else. So if somebody's treating you like that, you're going to trust them. And that's what the government wants. It wants you to trust them so they can manipulate you and control you. And then an LGBT person, coincidentally, spends an average of $1 million on Big Pharma over their lifetime. whether it's with medications, surgeries, classes, etc. So for every 1 million children that they can turn into a member of the LGBT community, they've just generated another $1 trillion in wealth for the big pharma industry. So there is monetary purposes for this. There is purposes for control, and there's purposes to make sure that their authority is never challenged. Because you're never going to see a revolution led against a dictatorial government by a whole group of gays and trannies. I'm sorry, it's never going to happen, ever in a million years. They might be part of the army, but they're never going to be leading that army, and they're never going to make up the bulk of that army. Most of them are going to be on the side of the government. And that's the way it is. That's just reality. And the attack on family is essential for destroying a nation. And that's exactly what they're doing. They want to destroy Canada. They want to destroy all the Western nations. You know, MAID, medically assisted suicide. Guess which countries it's legal in? Only white majority countries. The only countries where you can pay to kill yourself are Canada, USA, UK, Australia, Switzerland, Belgium, Germany, and France. You think that's an accident? Or you think there's an attack on white people? You think it's an accident that places like Canada, they bring in millions of immigrants from other countries? And we're not talking about doctors and lawyers that are trying to come here with their families. We're talking about people that are the lowest common denominator in their own country coming here for free stuff and a supposed better life. And now they even took it one step further in Canada. They are no longer requiring Canadian citizenship if you want to be part of the Canadian military. So just last month, they brought in over 20,000 people from all different countries, 41% of them from India, gave them permanent residency, and allowed them to join the army. So within 10 years in Canada, our tax dollars are going to pay for a force of 250,000 people army, and not one of them is born in Canada. Not one of them has any relations to Canada. Not one of them has any loyalty to Canada or Canadians. Everyone's worried that they're going to bring the UN army over here to shoot at Canadians. No, they don't have to do that. They're just going to bring in people from India, China, Jamaica, Nigeria, Brazil, and give them a Canadian permanent residency, a paycheck, a uniform, and a gun, and marching orders. And guess who they're going to listen to? The government, who gave them all that stuff. And they probably don't like Canadians in reality anyway, which is why they want to join the Canadian army, so they can have control over the Canadians. So Canada is finished. I don't care what anybody wants to argue with me. Canada as a country has long passed its peak, and now it's heading literally down the toilet. They're passing the laws for mandatory social credit score because they want UBI. They're going to make it so destitute. First, they have to get you in a financial situation where you're so destitute, you're going to vote for UBI. So this is what's going to happen in Canada from now on. Let me tell you, we're already $2 trillion in debt, number one. That's more than our entire GDP. And Canada's only 150 years old. We're the youngest country pretty much in the world, in the developed world. It took us 141 years to accumulate $1 trillion in debt. And then just 16 more years to turn that 1 trillion into 2 trillion. We're the only country in the developed world that has zero gold reserves. Zero. Other countries have thousands of tons of gold. Canada doesn't even have 1 ounce of gold. Our Canadian dollar is one of the weakest in the world and getting weaker by the year. On top of that, the only vestige of wealth we have left in Canada in private hands are the few small businesses that are closing at record paces and the property that are owned by Canadians, most of which were already owned by their parents or grandparents and handed down to them. Because when I was 18, 20 years old, you can make 30 grand a year, and a townhouse costs around 300 grand in the suburbs. So with 10 years of salary, you could buy that house. So you could get a down payment for 30 grand, 1 year's salary, and you can get a mortgage and in 15 years have that house fully paid for. Now, that person makes maybe 50 grand a year, but that same house is over $1 million. So it's like 20 years of salary. And now they have to, what did they do? They made 30-year mortgages because they know you won't be able to pay it off. So now it's going to cost you 30 years of salary to own a home. When my parents were growing up in the 60s, a house cost 30 grand and the man made 10 grand a year. So it was 3 years of salary. So you didn't put a down payment and get a mortgage. No, the man bought the house. And that's why you could have the man at work, the mom at home, have as many kids as you want, buy a couple of cars, put all your kids through college, and they could go off and have better lives than you, AKA the American dream. That no longer exists. Now it's the complete opposite. And now we got to the point in Canada where they're going to do this by design, by the way, because they need to make you financially destitute first to take over all the property so there's no wealth left and to close all the businesses. And by the way, I know millionaires and billionaires that have had businesses here for generations, and they all closed them down, auctioned everything off, sold their private jets, and they all fled Canada. In fact, the record number of people is fleeing Canada, and it's all the people with money, all the people with brains, and all the people with foresight, and all the rest of the people that hear it. This is what's going to happen to you every single year. Your cost of living is going to rise by roughly 30%. Why 30%? Because if they do it by 100%, people are going to realize what's going on. You're going to have massive riots in the streets. If you do it at 30%, most Canadians will still get by with relatively the same lifestyle that year. They might have to tighten up their belt, might have to go out once a week for dinner instead of twice a week, might have to cancel a gym membership, stupid things like that. But the bottom 5% of the society that are just holding on to their homes are going to lose their homes and become renters. And that's what they want. They want everybody to become a renter. But they don't want it to happen so fast that people notice and unite. They want the rest of the 90-95% to be so happy that they still have their home and still have their way of life that they just shut up, sit down, and let it happen. So after they do that for a couple of years, in 3 years, it's going to cost you 100% more than it did today to live the exact same lifestyle, which is virtually impossible for anybody. So you're going to have people losing their homes, around 5 to 10% of people a year, and you're going to have other people, the seniors, guess what? Their pension ain't going to cut it anymore. After 1 or 2 years, your pension is going to be useless. So what are they? And they don't want to go to a home. So what are they going to do? Have you ever heard of a reverse mortgage? Yeah, that's going to become a $1 trillion industry within the next 10 years within North America, because virtually every single senior is going to get a reverse mortgage on their home so they can make ends meet and they can live out their golden years in a happy, healthy way. And then guess what happens? There's so much debt on that house that they cannot pass it down to their children. Their children do not become homeowners. They become perpetual renters. And now you've destroyed home ownership in Canada. That's going to take about 9 years, 3 cycles of 3 years of 30% increase of cost of living. I'm very good with numbers. I'm very good with the economy, and I know how these people think. So a reverse mortgage is going to become just as common for a senior as a mortgage is common for a first or second time home buyer. That's where we're headed. And when you get to the point where everybody are renters now they're going to continue up with the cost of living. So now you're going to have enough support to pass universal basic income. But universal basic income is going to come with strings. Oh, you want your UBI? You're going to have to take your vaccines. You're going to have to do what we say when we say it. Oh, you just did an interview with Chris Sky? No UBI for you. Oh, you posted something on your social media we don't like? No, not for you. And they're going to tie it to a digital identity. They would have already brought it out, except they know if Trudeau even says the words digital identity, people are going to tell him to go fuck himself. But guess what? Pierre Poilievre is about to take over the country. You know how I know? He just grew about 4 inches. If you look at Pierre Poilievre 2 years ago, he was 5'8" by all his biographies. He wore glasses. He looked like a little nerd. And standing next to Trudeau, he's literally 4 inches shorter than Trudeau. Now that Trudeau's set to get the boot and they're going to give you the conservative, because we only have a 2-party system in Canada. It doesn't matter how many other parties there are. Every election, you can only elect a conservative or a liberal. Nobody else has a mathematical possibility. They put in the other parties just for the fringe movements to make you feel like you have a choice. You have no choice. And they'll give Trudeau 8 years to destroy the country like he did. Now they're going to give Poilievre 8 years to destroy the country. And because he's conservative and because he's so anti-Trudeau, he's going to have the trust of the people. And guess what they did? Look at his biographies now. Now they tell you he's 6'2", and he stands toe-to-toe with Trudeau. So he magically grew 4 inches within the last year and a half. No, they just put lifts in his shoes to make him look taller, to make him look more like a leader, gave him a new haircut, took off his glasses, so he looks like someone that should be able to run the country. And guess what the first thing he's going to pass is? Well, his trust is at the maximum. Digital ID. And guess how they're going to do it so conservatives will pretend it's moral and they should go along with it. He's going to introduce digital ID for porn websites and say it's because we don't want minors to access porn. Because, they couldn't use a credit card or a license or a normal ID. It needs to be a digital ID. And then all of a sudden, digital ID is going to be for social media. Digital ID is going to be for your job. And of course, digital ID is going to be for your UBI. And the UBI law is not just going to apply to UBI, it's going to apply to every type of government handout you're supposed to get, whether you were hurt at work and it's an insurance payment, whether it's your pension that you paid your whole life into. If you do not use the digital ID, if you do not take your vaccinations when they tell you, you are not getting any of it. That is where Canada is headed. It's disgusting and it's the truth. And they do it
Yes.
all by attacking the family first.
Mm. Attack of the family, very bad. And if you were to give some advice for the men, how would you tell them to be masculine? Some of these guys, they don't have a role model. Maybe they listen to this. What's your advice?
I already told them, if you want to be a man, act like a man. Learn to respect women, not to objectify them and not to try to control them and not to try to intimidate them, number one. And learn to be a man. But if you're a man, go to the gym, put on some muscles, go learn how to fight. Yeah, you might get a black eye, but you're going to learn to be a man. Martial artists have a higher confidence level than the rest of the people. I can walk into a room of 100 men and I can tell the top 5 toughest ones just by looking like that. And it's not the guy with the biggest muscles. It's not the guy who's 6'8" necessarily. And it's not the guy with the most tattoos. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in the way they stand. They have confidence and they're sure of themselves because they know if shit hits the fan, they're going to be the ones to come out of that room alive. If only a few people come out of that room alive, they're going to be one of them. And women see that too. Trust me. They see it just as easily, even more easily than other men see it. Because other men are so demasculinized, they're too afraid to even look at a man like that. If they think of a man as intimidating, they won't even spend enough time looking at him to size him up. That's how pathetic men have become. So yes, you need to go to the gym. Yes, you need to learn how to fight. Yes, you need to learn how to be a little bit handy around the house. These are all things that are traits of masculine men. And they're not toxic, ladies and gentlemen. They are going to make you stronger mentally, physically, spiritually. They're going to improve your livelihood. They're going to improve the caliber of partner you will be able to attract. They're going to improve what type of boyfriend you will be, what type of husband you will be, what type of father you will be. They're going to improve your family structure, which is the number one thing under attack in the country today. So stop listening to them and start listening to your heart. In your heart, you know what the right decision is. But when you're told over and over by the government, don't worry about it, just do what we say, it makes it real easy. And I'll give you a perfect example. How many people, when they took the COVID vaccine, now regret it? And when you ask them about it, said, but I had no choice.
Mm.
Oh, really? You didn't have a choice. So somebody put a gun to your head and said, you take this vaccine or else. No, you thought you might lose your job, or you wanted to go on vacation, or you wanted to visit someone in an old age home. Something stupid. I even heard somebody's excuse that they wanted to play volleyball at the local community center, and that's why they got their double vax. And then they come and tell me they didn't have a choice. The only people that didn't have a choice were the kids that were literally dragged in, kicking and screaming, saying, no, 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 and held down and injected with it by a parent just as weak and stupid as the stupidest people on planet Earth. Everybody had a choice. You just took the easy way out because you didn't want to face the unknown. You didn't want to face the prospect of maybe having to get another job. Meanwhile, I know masculine, badass men that had 25 careers, making 6 figures, have a wife and 3 kids, and they lost everything just to not take that vaccine.
Yes.
And they went and found another job, started a new business, did whatever they had to do. So you all had a choice. You just didn't have the balls. And that's part of being a man. Having the balls to do the right thing, ladies and gentlemen. The right thing is more often than not the easy thing. It's usually the hard thing. And that's why they tell you it's better to be weak. It's better to do the easy thing. It's better to be not masculine. It's better to be harmless. They want you to be harmless because if you're a man, you are dangerous. And if you are dangerous, you cannot be controlled. If you are dangerous, you might actually fight back. And that is what they want to stop more than anything. They want to have a population of males, not men, that will literally do whatever they're told, even when they know it's not in their best interest or the best interest of their family. You know how ashamed you got to be of yourself to be a man that forced your child to wear a mask or forced your child to take a jab just because they told you to when you knew your child didn't want it? There's so many parents I almost physically fought because I was at house parties and stuff, and the child would come home, a child would come out, they'd have rashes on their face, and they would be crying about how they don't want to wear the mask at school. And the mom and dad would be like, well, son, you should just do whatever the teacher tells you. And I don't care if you're a man or a woman, I literally want to smack you in the face at that point, and you deserve it. You need to be woken up. Normally, I would not hit a woman, but if you're a woman that's literally putting your child at risk, you deserve a wake up call. I'm sorry.
Mm.
It's absolutely ridiculous what passes for parents these days. They should have a license for being parents if they actually care, but they don't care. In fact, they want you to have a broken family. They want you to be a weak man, and they want you to be a masculine woman because they want the woman to be the head of the household, because it's easier to control a female by emotions than it is a man. When a female watches a news report, oh my God, COVID deaths, oh my God, get your vaccine, they are more likely to have an emotional response than a masculine male. It's that simple. Call me a misogynist, call me whatever you want. Those names mean nothing to me because I have truth and reality on my side. And you're never going to sway me. And I'm 100% steadfast in my convictions because I know I'm right. And I'll prove it to you. Because if you're a weak ass man, I'll come and take your girl from you if I wanted to. And you won't do anything. And she'll be happy to come with me. I wouldn't because I still have morals and I'm not a dickhead, but I could if I wanted to. And that's the whole point.
Mm. Do the right thing. Masculinity and morality go together, and the family is important. That's what you're saying.
100%. If they're going to take anything from everything I've said, you just hit the nail on the head. You condense a million of my words into like one sentence. Congratulations, you're a genius.
Thank you so much, Chris Sky.
I love you. You're my favorite. And I hope people actually listen to this and take it and apply it to their life. And yet, guess what? If you do, you're going to notice improvements not only in yourself, not only in your love life, not only in your work life, not only in your social life, not only as a husband, not only as a father, but with every single aspect of your life. I promise you. And if not, come and punch me in the face because I deserve it then. But I guarantee you'll come and give me a hug instead.